So to kick us off, what's going to be wonderful is this higher level perspective, what we call a fireside chat. Now, you can't have anything better than a fireside chat on a cold morning, right? We're just missing the fire. But I have a feeling this discussion is going to be so hot that it's going to get everybody really engaged. So I'd like to invite up to the stage to join me Brennan, who is the Senior Vice President and Chief Financial Officer for the New Jersey Institute of Technology, and John Cromie, who's a partner and chair of corporate and business law at Connell Foley. And together we're going to take a look at the 2024 economic outlook with some higher level perspective on New Jersey's economy today and heading into the new year. Let's have a round of applause for our speakers. All right, we have so much good stuff to talk about. We are going to start, Catherine, with you, because one of the top concerns coming out of our survey is the state of the workforce in New Jersey. And so we'd like to take a look at the state of higher education from your perspective at NJIT. It's no surprise that workforce development continues to be a top concern on the minds of business. From skills to work ethic to all types of careers students are attracted to, and frankly, training them for the careers that don't exist yet. Can you share some thoughts with us?
Sure. Good morning, and thank you for inviting me to be here with you this morning. So I think NJIT is, we've got a unique ecosystem, I would say, in the state. We are the state's only public polytechnic university, and 91% of the degrees that we produce are in STEM fields. STEM fields seem to be where the ROI is these days, and for a lot of parents and for people in general, I think the big concern is return on investment in higher ed. And I think that's where we're positioned really strongly, because we are a pipeline for the state of New Jersey in terms of producing students with STEM degrees. I'm not sure it's not known, well known, but 60% of all Black and Hispanic engineers come out of NJIT in the state of New Jersey. 1/3 of all scientists and engineers come out of NJIT. So when you talk about workforce development, you know, there are specialized programs, certificates, and non-degree programs that are useful for the workforce and that, you know, typically reflect what a workforce development program might be, and apprenticeships. We actually produce, you know, a lot of students with degrees in the in-demand STEM fields. And so from a workforce perspective, you know, we think that, you know, our contribution to the state is really powerful. We also are highly focused on the state's priority areas, so advanced manufacturing, wind technology, clean energy, transportation, and logistics. Those are all areas that our students, you know, focus on, and our researchers. I would say, though, that the state of higher ed is, you know, is challenging, because as we serve the student population, there are more needy population. We have a very diverse student population. The population of our students is growing. We literally could have filled the entire freshman class this year with just the applicants to our school of the College of Computing. So it's not, so we're even seeing a shift away from engineering towards computing. But, you know, but the students who come to us need greater financial assistance. And so just because we're driving enrollment doesn't mean we're driving net tuition dollars. So it's a challenging time for institutions. You know, some institutions are very concerned with the demographic cliff. We don't seem to be experiencing that just yet, but we're not naive as to think it won't come for us as well. But right now, we're in a very strong position, we feel, because we offer STEM degrees that produce that ROI and that are in demand.
So you're still seeing demand students coming in, because I know a lot when we talk in general, and I hear a lot from the next generation as suggesting, I want a different trajectory to the future. I want to earn and learn. I don't want to take on the debt that I saw my sibling or my parent take on. So enrollment is still strong. Unfortunately, you're turning away many still who are, you know, finding their way somewhere else. But enrollment right now is strong. We haven't hit that demographic cliff yet, as you say. But are you seeing a difference in kind of the mentality of the student coming in terms of this more step approach, earn and learn, or a mixture where you're still seeing kids who are like, no, just I want to get my 4 years, and I'm just going to drive to that first degree?
So we actually, so the earn and learn aspect is there, but we really encourage the traditional trajectory. Students do internships, they do things like that, but we really encourage the traditional trajectory because students coming out with that 4-year degree have such upward earning potential that it's really worth it for them to stay. And NJIT is ranked very highly nationally for its ROI and for earnings of its graduates. So, and the students know that coming in. So
we know there's a strong demand in STEM. John, staying on education for a moment, what are you seeing coming up in terms of legal professional services from a workforce perspective?
Well, good morning, and thank you, Michele, for the opportunity. Thank you as well for all that you do and the organization does for the state of New Jersey. It's greatly appreciated, much needed, and it's obviously strong advocates for business. I think from a legal standpoint, we are, like all businesses, coming out of the post-COVID world. And so demand was obviously pretty strong coming out of the lockdown in New Jersey. There's increasing competition for good legal talent and for young lawyers. Obviously, our firm, Connell Foley, has been around for a while and is well positioned to be a great place to work. But increasingly, when I came out of law school a lifetime ago, you pretty much, if you were going to school here in New Jersey, you would often just stay in local markets. Young people coming out of law school today, and I have a daughter who's a second-year law student at Seton Hall, much more opportunities, much more mobility in the legal marketplace. The mobility that you see across all industries is impacted in terms of legal talent as well. So young lawyers, young law students have opportunities. They're untethered, as I like to say, as well, young adult children are very much mobile and not connected. The days of somebody like myself, who's a bit of a dinosaur, who's been at my law firm for, if you count law school, 38 years, very unusual, right? But today's marketplace. So creating cultures, creating environments, creating opportunities for law students coming out and getting them, attracting them, and getting them to stay is a challenge. And that's something we work on, and you're trying to build a culture to do that. So same issues that you're facing with attracting students to NJIT and getting them to stay and matriculate and getting them placed, we're having in terms of bringing them in to organizations as well. Much more, as I said, mobile, and much more, to their credit, I think, open to opportunities and open to change. The thought of doing, working in the same place for a long period of time, for many of them, is not as attractive. So
I would say not unique in the legal profession. If I were to take a quick pulse poll around the room, who's seeing that in their industry? Mobility is creating challenge, opportunity maybe at the same time, but definitely challenge, right? Students, future career earners don't want to stay in the same place for too long. So I meant to mention when I started, we want this to be interactive, and I know some folks over there, I'm going to lean back to see you. We want this to be interactive, so if you hear something that stimulates a question from you as we're having the discussion, please raise your hand and we'll take the questions as we go throughout versus waiting until the end, okay? Take me up on that. John, I want to stay with you now, just larger law firm in New Jersey, and you have a great perspective on the economy through the lens of your clients and those that you provide services to every day. Can you share your thoughts on the business issues your clients are facing and whether you see any trends year over year?
I'll be happy to. And I took note, the timing was very good. I saw your business survey, so with permission and attribution, when I looked at that, that confirmed in many respects, anecdotally, what I'm seeing, which is New Jersey has obviously many competitive advantages. You all know them. One is location, right? We are blessed to be where we are here on the 95 corridor, sandwiched between New York and Philadelphia, and our economy is inexorably tied in many ways to that location. We have a great and highly educated workforce, right? And so that's a big help. We have a very strong transportation infrastructure here between the ports, our airports, our road systems. The challenges, though, that are facing the businesses were highlighted in your survey, and I have seen that over the years, and frankly, in the years I've been practicing, they have remained the same. The benefits of being where we are located present opportunities, but they also present challenges. Cost of doing business here is significant, right, in terms of compensating your employees, your fixed labor, your fixed real estate costs are higher than other parts of the country. Other challenges are the regulatory burden that we have here in the area, and again, attracting and keeping folks here, at least on a macro level. On a more specific or micro level, New Jersey has very strong, because of our location, real estate marketplace, especially with the change and the transformation of retail and in terms of how business is done. The days of going to a regional mall, while some people may still do that, think about how many packages are delivered to your home, right? We all know our FedEx and our delivery folks, and Amazon. Amazon and the distribution chains have transformed how we all live. Because of our location, that has driven real estate values. Warehousing and distribution centers are thriving in this state. So 25 years ago, I had clients that were in that business, and it was hard to get flex or types of distribution centers leased. Many of those clients wish they had hung on to those properties back then if they could have carried them, because they would have been worth a fortune right now, or are worth a fortune. That's been a significant change. I grew up in suburban Essex. When I was growing up, many of the folks that I knew, family, friends, and neighbors, had small family businesses, manufacturing, light manufacturing, and again, in suburban Essex. While there's still some of that, a lot of that has changed. You've seen that. You've probably all experienced that. Those jobs and those types of businesses have changed as the economy has transformed. The other trend that I'm seeing, quite honestly, is I do an awful lot of M&A work in the last couple of years with people coming out of post-COVID, generational change, family businesses without a succession plan, people seeing opportunity to cash out and sell businesses. So that is a trend I'm seeing as well. And it's a challenge for the state, because many of those folks are not only selling businesses, many of them are leaving the state or being not in the state full time, and that's a drain on the economy, both economically and in terms of the human capital that you're losing. So those are some of the broad trends that I'm seeing.
Yeah, for those who follow BIA, we study the out-migration patterns, and we update them every year thanks to the great research work from Kyle and his team. And right now, we know over the last 15 years, we've lost about $33 billion in adjusted gross income from out-migration out of the state of New Jersey. That's a big movement. That's people moving their money, right? So I'm not just talking about population shift. We're talking about the movement of money. And if you think about $33 billion and what that could mean to our general fund, right? And unfortunately, that trend continues. We have not seen that bottom out or decline. I think it's been pretty steady the last few years at a higher number there. So something we need to keep an eye on. And then with that out-migration, going back to our students, sadly, we're still, 18 to 34-year-olds, #1 moving population in the entire country, are 18 and 34-year-olds leaving the state of New Jersey because of the issues of affordability. So we have wealth leaving, we have students. Kathy, coming back, John mentioned growing up in suburban Essex. Let's now go into urban Newark. And just from a geographic perspective, what are you seeing in and around the city relative to real estate activity? And then how does that influence perhaps, a student's desire to attend an urban institution?
Well, I think so I grew up in Jersey City, so I'm very familiar with Newark. So making the choice to work in Newark was a positive decision for me. And, not having really been around Newark for many years, having worked in Trenton for so long, I visited Newark before I made the decision to actually, take a position there. And I was very impressed and continue to be impressed over the 3 years I've been working in Newark by the amount of construction that's currently going on, the number of new buildings going up, residential housing. There is a lot happening in Newark. Our campus is fairly contained. Our footprint is pretty surrounded. There's a limitation for what, where we can grow. So as we need to grow, we will have to, go outside of our traditional boundaries within the city. But what's happening in the city and the potential for students to stay in the city and get internships in the city has been positive and expanding. And I would say our biggest challenge, just being located, to your point, in this, in the metropolitan center we are in, is that recruiting talent for our own workforce is challenging. It's very expensive. We frequently don't have the pools of candidates we want, or we frequently, extend offers and then have, somebody come back and after accepting an offer and say they have found another position. We're just having a really difficult time hiring at the salary levels that we set when we advertise positions. So it's a challenging workforce environment for us as an employer.
As an employer, absolutely. John, I know you wanted to add something.
Well, I just wanted to add as well, you mentioned Jersey City. Obviously, again, going back to the overall trends in the economy, transformation of New Jersey's real estate marketplace on the commercial side has been significant in at least the years I've been practicing. Jersey City has been transformed. Our firm's been obviously down there and done a lot of that, been involved in a lot of those projects. I agree with you. There's an awful lot of good things going on in Newark, and I think that bodes well for the state. Some progress down in the southern end of the state in Camden and Cherry Hill area outside of Philadelphia. That real estate development, again, the mention I made of our location and our connection to kind of the new service-oriented distribution economy will serve the state well if we continue to manage it and foster it. The other component, too, we are blessed with a great medical care system in the state, right, with 3 or 4 or 5 large medical service providers. Those also are a driver of real estate and economic development throughout the state. So there are positives out there, and I think we need to continue to capitalize on that and realize that the old economy of 30, 40, 50 years ago has changed and evolved. Obviously, to the extent the state can take positions and advocate policies that will continue to attract folks here, light manufacturing, AI is going to be transformative, right? We ought to be positioning ourselves to take advantage of that, and again, capitalize on the advantages that we have.
Definitely. I want to come back to some industry specific in a moment, but just staying on real estate for one more minute, because something we see, I know our survey suggested that our companies did not expand in 2023. Many aren't looking to expand in 2024, and sadly, if they're looking to expand, they want to expand outside the state of New Jersey. But I think a lot of us have a little bit of a concern in our gut about the real estate market hasn't hit the post-COVID yet of leases coming up, et cetera. And inflation has settled out. Again, the survey shows that people are feeling more comfortable about what they can control relative to inflation going into 2024. But what are we seeing or fearing or maybe getting excited about on the other side about what's going to happen in real estate over the next 2 or 3 years as some of these big leases come up?
Interesting you mentioned that. While it wasn't New Jersey, I was in Manhattan yesterday for a meeting in Midtown. I walked into a large national law firm's office, and there was one person there, the receptionist. And we were there for 3 minutes, and we left to go to another meeting in Midtown. Now, that's not New Jersey, but I was struck. It had a feeling that we were still in COVID. That is concerning on the commercial side. And I don't want to sound like a schizophrenic lawyer on one hand saying real estate's going to be great for the state, and the next breath say we have a challenge coming. But there are challenges within the real estate sector. As I said, distribution, flex space, high cube buildings on the Turnpike corridor are going to be in demand. There's going to be a challenge, I think, for commercial office space, especially in less than grade A or highly desirable spaces and on older buildings. We were in a building in Roseland at Becker Farm, right off 280, that was developed, when I was in high school, frankly. It had been a dairy farm up through the early 80s. 2 of those buildings, including the one that we were in for 30 years, were knocked down for redevelopment because there was no market for office space in suburban Essex. So there's always cycles, right? There's going to be opportunities. Like that one site is going to be redeveloped for a hotel. Another site is going to be redeveloped for housing. So if you look at the folks who are a lot smarter than me, many of the office buildings, there's a thought they're going to be repurposed for residential. To the extent there's a demand, right? Because there's a push-pull. We got to make sure there's opportunities and affordability here that people can continue to come in here and work. And the cost to retrofit a building that was not designed for residential is significant. So obviously there are challenges, but there's always opportunities as well. And the entrepreneurs, developers will follow where the opportunities are. Kathy, I don't know what you're seeing in Newark.
Even pre-pandemic, I mean, going to Jersey City, even pre-pandemic, NJIT had engaged in a lease downtown Jersey City, thinking that as commuters came off the trains, they would, come up into the buildings there and, and want to do, evening certificate programs and fintech programs and things like that. And, and that space has been underutilized post-pandemic because the commuters just aren't that pipeline of New Jersey residents coming across the Hudson, taking courses at night in a building is not a concept that flies post-pandemic. So even, we have experienced some challenges with long-term leases, so.
Challenge is getting people to come back to the office,
Yes.
right? We have,
Yes.
I'm sure many of you have those same issues. We have a policy, I try not to be heavy-handed about it, to say, you really ought to get in the office 3 days a week or 4 days a week, right? I jokingly said to one of my partners, maybe people misread that and said, oh, you're supposed to come in 1 day a week and stay out 4 days a week, because I look around and I go in because I'm wired that way. As I said earlier, some of it's cultural, some of it's generational, and that's okay. Change is good, but it's a challenge, and I think as the job market changes, right, those perspectives may change, because right now people have opportunities. So if they don't like the ability to have, if they're working in an environment where there's a mandated, you got to be in 4 or 5 days a week, right, they have opportunities to go to other places where they can be much more flexible. As that pendulum swings back, I think you may see that change. But I do see it culturally changing. I think a lot of, they're untethered.
Absolutely.
And they'd like to be untethered. And so it's a challenge not only on the economic side, it's a challenge in terms of how do you build your business. You mentioned it earlier about the relationships. How do you have that connection and feel like you're part of the organization, part of the dysfunctional family outside of your own family, right?
Yeah,
That's why you stay for 38 or 40 years.
We could absolutely spend an hour on culture and 5 generations in the workforce and what that means to everybody. And I think the challenging takeaway from this is it's one thing to have a policy, it's another thing to have the ability to execute on that policy, because you don't have 4 people lined up for that job outside the door if you lose that person, especially if it's someone who you've invested in, right? Very, very tough to manage. Going for opportunity, though, so we talk about STEM jobs, engineering, and we talk about opportunity maybe to transform some of our facilities across the state, and that takes me to manufacturing. This is an exciting time, very exciting time for manufacturing. A lot of attention on manufacturing at the state level, at the federal level, a lot of money going to manufacturing. Post-COVID, the idea of onshoring and reshoring because of some of the challenges we had in supply chain. Gail knows, I'm looking at her nod right here, right? Our DNA runs deep on manufacturing at NJBIA 113 years ago, the New Jersey Manufacturing Association, right? So where are our opportunities? How do we seize upon the opportunity if this is a time for manufacturing in New Jersey? Obviously preparing the workforce. What does it take to prepare them? And then John, what are you seeing relative to maybe expansion or opportunities in some facilities to do that? Maybe you start and Kathy can finish on the workforce.
Yeah, so.
Or Kathy, you start. Ahead,
yeah.
Ladies first.
Thanks. So in terms of advanced manufacturing, for students and for our grant opportunities, as you alluded to, Michele, both the federal, mostly the federal level, the grant opportunities have expanded related to manufacturing, and so for our students participating in, or as an example, our makerspace on campus it gives us potential to not only prepare our students with real hands-on experience and prepare them for the workforce, but we also welcome adult learners into in that sort of facility, which prepares people to go out into the workforce. And we're very focused on providing upskilling to Newark residents, to providing skills related to the wind industry in New Jersey, and even with the recent news in the wind industry, we're very focused on training related to wind and to clean energy. So those are three areas where, with advanced manufacturing skills, and then AI is creeping in as well. So, and we have we have a hold in that area as well, because computing is changing the direction of advanced manufacturing, and so being able to offer those highly advanced AI-related manufacturing upskilling opportunities is also something that we're focused on.
Great, thank you. And doing a great job at it, and the makerspace is phenomenal. Yeah. Absolutely, John.
Yeah, well, I would agree with you. I think given the changes coming out of COVID, given the geopolitical issues that are going on in the world, that you're going to see, and there is going to be increasing opportunities to bring manufacturing back to the state and to the region. From my perspective, I think a couple things, and it's easier said than done, but I think most of the people in the room would tend to agree with this, or I'd like to think so. One, you got to create incentives for people to do so. Two, I think we need to continue collaboration. We have great higher ed educational organizations across the state, NJIT at the top of the list, among others, wherever there can be a partnering with those higher ed organizations to facilitate that and to try to bring entrepreneurs and bring folks who want to get back into manufacturing to the state. We got to take advantage of it. Was originally from Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh's renaissance, right, was really in many ways tied to not necessarily a pure public-private partnership. I'm not talking about the government necessarily running business, but people communicating, creating policies, creating opportunities between the University of Pittsburgh, Carnegie Mellon, and Pittsburgh. Those of you who follow it, there's been a renaissance there. The steel city that I knew as a very young child, my family knew certainly growing up, has been transformed. And there's a lot of high-tech manufacturing going on in Pittsburgh. The days of machine and tool and die shops, which was the bread and butter of the city for many, many years, along with the steel mills. While they're still there, it's been transformed, right? And so there's opportunities to do that. To that end, I think we also need to be thinking about how we partner with our neighboring states, right? The days of just being New Jersey-centric, in my mind, are probably gone as well, because it's a much more competitive environment. When I first started practicing law, you didn't hear about Pennsylvania competing necessarily with New Jersey. With due respect to Pennsylvania, I'm a Pennsylvania native. Today, Pennsylvania is very much at the top of the list, and because of the remote world we're in and the great transportation system, you can live in Pennsylvania and work out there, and we're competing not only on a national level, we're competing on a regional level. So those are the things I would like to see, that and trying to get, New Jersey's a home rule state, right? We all know that. That's what makes it unique, and that makes our towns special to all of us, but it's very hard to get things done. So at the local level, creating opportunities and streamlining the approval process for folks who want to get into manufacturing and repurpose facilities.
But also cluster research groups. You talk about collaboration, but collaboration among higher ed institutions, collaboration between higher ed and industry are very important for being able to secure grant dollars. Where the big federal grant dollars, you really need cluster groups to go after those opportunities. You're in a much more competitive position. You look at what even the BBBRC grant that was awarded last year. It was, it really mattered to have that collaboration and to have a really solidified collaborative partnership in putting the proposals together to win those awards. So we are very focused on collaborating with our other in-state in-state institutions, but collaboration is really key for securing top research dollars.
So fantastic, because you walked right into what is a great closing statement for an action item, because it's amazing how quickly 30 minutes goes, right? Proud of all the things we heard here today, and as I said, remember, this informs our policy direction at NJBIA. Sounds like we're right on the money, Chris, okay? We're talking about collaboration in and among higher ed, collaboration with higher ed and industry and government, doing that, which is awesome. Best practices, ripping a page from a Pittsburgh playbook, right, on how they do it. We always talk about up in Boston how they have their innovation ecosystem and how we're doing that here. Spot on the money. Regional approach, so important. The fact that Pennsylvania does unfortunately eat our lunch today, this is why, Regina. We continue to say that sunset of the CBT surcharge is excellent. However, we need to keep driving it down, because Pennsylvania is on a multi-year trajectory to 4.99 right across the Hudson. That's going to be problematic for us if we can't be regionally competitive, at the same time reaching across the river to partner on getting federal dollars. We haven't been that good at that here in New Jersey. In fact, in the state itself, we have a tough time not putting 5 bids in for one state project and competing with ourselves. We can't do that. We need to collaborate more, within our state, within our region, so that we can bring home some more of that money, right? So with that, let's thank our panel. They've been fantastic.